What kind of person storms into an art class, claims to be a critic, and demands everyone bow to her opinions? Karen Mitchell did exactly that, striding into the community college's advanced painting course like she owned the place. Her heavy footsteps echoed in the small studio, paint fumes thick in the air, as 20 pairs of eyes turned to her. She was a mountain of a woman, her face twisted into a permanent scowl, radiating a confidence that bordered on menace. "I'm here to evaluate your work," she announced, her voice booming with unearned authority. "I've critiqued for galleries across the state. Let's see if any of you have talent worth my time." The students, a mix of hopeful young artists and older hobbyists, exchanged uneasy glances. Nobody had heard of her, but her tone left no room for questions. She wasn't an instructor, not even a guest. She'd simply walked in, claiming a spot in a class she'd never signed up for, and nobody stopped her. Not yet. The room buzzed with tension as Karen began her reign of terror. She moved from easel to easel, her critiques sharp and cruel. "This is amateurish," she sneered at a vibrant still life, its colors bold and experimental. "You call this art? It's a mess." The painter, a quiet girl named Mia, flushed red, her hands trembling as she gripped her brush. Karen didn't stop there. She tore into a shy older man's abstract piece, calling it a child's scribble, and laughed at a boy's portrait, saying it looked like a dog chewed on it. Each word was a jab, precise and meant to wound. The students, already vulnerable sharing their work, shrank under her gaze. But Mia, the quiet one, didn't stay quiet for long. Something in her eyes flickered anger, defiance, a spark that Karen didn't see coming. Mia had been painting for years, pouring her heart into every stroke. She wasn't here for fame. She was here to grow, to find her voice on canvas. Karen's words hit her like a slap, but they also lit a fire. As Karen moved to the next easel, Mia whispered to her friend Leo, a lanky kid with a quick wit and a sketchbook always in hand. "Who does she think she is?" Mia hissed. Leo smirked, flipping open his sketchbook. "Let's find out," he said, his pencil already moving. The class continued, Karen's voice dominating the space, but something shifted. The students weren't just listening anymore, they were watching, waiting, plotting. Karen thought she was in control, but she just walked into a room full of people who knew how to fight back with more than words. By the second class, Karen's presence had become a storm cloud over the studio. The instructor, Professor Ellis, a gentle man in his 60s, seemed at a loss. He tried to redirect her, politely asking for her credentials, but Karen brushed him off with a wave of her hand. "I don't need a degree to know art," she snapped. "I've got taste." The students, however, weren't buying it. Mia, Leo, and a third student, Sarah, a fiery redhead with a knack for realism, started digging. They searched online during breaks, scouring social media and art forums for any trace of Karen Mitchell, art critic. Nothing. No bylines, no reviews, no gallery mentions. The closest they found was a Karen Mitchell who ran a blog about knitting, with 3 followers. The truth began to crystallize. Karen was a fraud, a nobody who'd waltzed in to play God with their dreams. The trio's discovery was the twist that turned whispers into action. Mia, heart-pounding, confronted Karen in the next class. "Where exactly have you critiqued?" she asked, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. Karen's face reddened, her eyes narrowing. "I don't owe you an explanation," she barked. "Focus on your terrible painting." The room went silent, every brush frozen mid-stroke. Mia didn't back down. "If you're so great, show us your work," she said, louder now. Karen sputtered, her confidence cracking for the first time. Leo, ever the instigator, chimed in. "Yeah, Karen, let's see your masterpieces." Laughter rippled through the room, soft at first, then bold. Karen's scowl deepened, but she had no answer. The students had found her weakness. She had nothing to show, no proof to back her bluster. The confrontation escalated in the following weeks, each class a battlefield. Karen doubled down, her critiques growing nastier, but the students were no longer cowed. They fought back with questions, with defiance, with art. Leo's sketchbook became their secret weapon. He'd started drawing Karen during her rants, capturing her in goofy, exaggerated caricatures. Her scowl stretched into a cartoonish grimace, her gestures comically overblown. He passed the sketches around, and soon the whole class was in on it. They'd slip drawings into each other's bags, pin them to the bulletin board, even leave them on easels for Karen to find. Each one chipped away at her facade, her authority crumbling under the weight of their silent rebellion. The tipping point came on a rainy Tuesday, the studio thick with the smell of turpentine and tension. Karen was mid-rant, tearing into Sarah's portrait of her grandmother, calling it sentimental garbage. Sarah, usually quick with a retort, stood frozen, her eyes glistening. The room felt like it might snap. Mia, standing at her easel, couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed one of Leo's caricatures, a particularly absurd one showing Karen as a bellowing art critic with a tiny crown slipping off her head, and held it up. "Is this what a real critic looks like?" she asked, her voice cutting through the silence. The class erupted in gasps, then laughter. Karen's face went from red to purple, her hands shaking as she snatched the paper. "How dare you!" she screamed, but her voice cracked, betraying her. The students didn't stop. Leo tossed another sketch onto the table, this one showing Karen as a cartoon dictator, complete with a scepter made of paintbrushes. The room was alive with rebellion, every student feeding off the energy of the moment. Karen tried to regain control, shouting over the laughter, but it was no use. Professor Ellis, who'd been quietly watching, finally stepped in. "Ms. Mitchell," he said, his voice calm but firm, "I think it's time we discussed your role here." He'd done his own digging, prompted by the students' findings, and had contacted the college administration. Karen wasn't registered, wasn't invited, wasn't even on the guest list. She was, in every sense, an intruder. Faced with Ellis's quiet authority and the students' open defiance, Karen's bravado collapsed. She stammered, tried to argue, but the truth was out. She wasn't an art critic. She was just a woman with a loud voice and a need to feel important. The class watched as she grabbed her bag, her movements jerky, her face a mask of humiliated rage, and stormed out into the rain. The fallout was swift and merciless. Word of Karen's deception spread across the campus like wildfire. The students didn't stop at caricatures. They posted Leo's sketches online, tagging them with hashtags like fake critic and Karen got schooled. The college's art department, embarrassed by the breach, issued a formal apology and tightened security protocols. Karen's name became a campus legend, a cautionary tale about hubris and the power of truth. But the real damage was to Karen herself. She'd enrolled in another course at the Collegia pottery class, of all things hoping to quietly move on. But the sketches followed her. Students in the pottery class recognized her, whispered about her, even slipped new drawings under her workstation. Overwhelmed by the shame and the relentless mockery, Karen dropped out of the college entirely, her dreams of being a respected figure in the art world reduced to a punchline. The studio, once a place of fear under Karen's shadow, transformed in her absence. The students painted with new energy, their work bolder, freer, unafraid. Mia's still life, once dismissed by Karen, won a local art contest. Leo's caricatures, born of rebellion, caught the eye of a gallery owner who offered him a small exhibit. Sarah's portrait of her grandmother hung in the campus library, a quiet tribute to resilience. The class became a family, bound by their shared victory over a bully who tried to dim their light. They'd learned something Karen never understood. Art wasn't about tearing others down. It was about building something real, something true, even when it hurt. But the story didn't end with Karen's exit. A month later, a package arrived at the studio, addressed to Mia. Inside was a crumpled letter from Karen, written in shaky handwriting. "I'm sorry," it began. "I wanted to feel important, and I took it out on you. I'm not an art critic. I'm just someone who loves art but never had the courage to create it." The letter stunned the class. Mia read it aloud, her voice soft, and for a moment, the room was silent. Karen, the tyrant, was human after all, a woman broken by her own insecurities, lashing out to hide her fear. The students didn't forgive her, not exactly, but they understood. They'd won not just by exposing her, but by refusing to become like her. The experience left a mark on everyone, but it was Mia who carried it forward. She started a blog, not about knitting or petty grudges, but about the power of art to heal and unite. She wrote about the class, about Karen, about the sketches that turned a bully into a lesson. Her posts went viral, shared by students and artists across the country. Each one a reminder that creativity could be a weapon, a shield, a bridge. The blog caught the attention of a local art collective, who invited Mia to speak at their annual showcase. Standing on stage, her voice steady, she told the story of the class that fought back, not with fists or insults, but with paint and pencils. The crowd roared, not just for her, but for every artist who'd ever been told their work wasn't enough. Leo, inspired by the response, turned his caricatures into a graphic novel, a satirical take on the art world's gatekeepers. It wasn't just about Karen, it was about every voice that tried to silence creativity. The book sold out its first run, and Leo donated the proceeds to a scholarship for young artists. Sarah, meanwhile, organized a campus exhibit titled Truth in Color, showcasing the class's work alongside stories of their triumph. The exhibit drew crowds, not just for the art, but for the message. No one, no matter how loud or cruel, could take away their voice. The college, once embarrassed, embraced the story, making it part of their mission to foster resilience and authenticity in art. Years later, Mia ran into Karen at a small gallery opening. Karen looked different, quieter, smaller, her face no longer twisted in arrogance. She approached Mia hesitantly, clutching a sketchbook of her own. "I'm trying to draw," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's hard, but I'm learning." Mia nodded, not with pity, but with respect. Karen's fall had been brutal, but it had cracked open something Newa chance to create, to be vulnerable, to start again. They didn't become friends, but they shared a moment, two people shaped by the same storm, standing on opposite sides of it. The class's victory wasn't just about exposing a fraud. It was about discovering their own strength, their own art, their own truth. They'd faced a bully, not with her tactics, but with something stronger: creativity, courage, and community. Karen's shame was her punishment, but it was also her chance to rebuild. And for the students, it was a reminder that art could do more than Decortite could fight. It could heal, it could inspire. They painted on, their canvases brighter, their hearts fuller, knowing they turned a moment of cruelty into a legacy of hope.